Your first presidential vote, I think, would have been in 1964. Goldwater Johnson.
64. I'd be 22. Yes.
So you had to be 21 then. You go for Johnson?
My recollection is that I voted for Johnson. It's hard to remember, but I would have. Although I will say, a lot of things that Barry Goldwater said were going to come true if you voted for Johnson, he was right.
It came true. And the Goldwater of the 1990s was different. Nixon, Humphrey?
I just don't remember. Probably Humphrey, but I just, I grew up in the democratic world, and I've lived in democratic cities all my life, although I think there's much too much partisanship, and I certainly think, I've been a Democrat, I've been a Republican, I'm now an independent. I think that people are using these parties just as vehicles, as I did, incidentally, to get elected, and you'll find despicable people and brilliant philanthropic patriots in both parties. And it's the trouble. What we have to do is we have to pick the best out of both parties and pull them together instead of having this partisanship where it's either or. The job of being president is to lead the country and the legislature. We have a system where the legislature has a lot of say, and it is pulling those, explaining to the public what you're trying to do and getting them on board, getting them to support you. It is getting the legislature to work together and pass the legislation. And because America is the only really remaining superpower, you are the leader of the free world. It is getting having the credibility and working with other countries to get them all to work together to stop genocide, to stop nuclear proliferation, to make sure that we have fair trade among countries. All of those things require cooperation. And one of the sad things is, at the moment, America is not liked around the world, and we have become much more isolationist than we've been in a long time. We're closing our eyes. We have this view that we can do it alone, as we're getting more and more into a world where you can't. You couldn't do it before, and you certainly can't do it now, and it's inconceivable you could do it tomorrow.
Too much talk about religion in national politics, you think?
Oh, yes, because I think people are using it as a crutch. Harry Schleivo, for example, a tragic case. Was that something that Congress should be dealing with? No, it should be in the family and with the doctor and the husband. And this poor woman was being used as a political prop, and I found that offensive.
Right. Why do you think it's become so dominant, particularly the presidential level?
Well, there are single advocacy groups that have disproportionate amounts of power. NRA is always an example. With a small number of people, really are very effective lobbyists. The whole born-again, evangelistic kind of thing. And I think the elected officials think that people care a lot more than they care. I think most people understand there are bigger issues than a lot of the things that the elected officials are talking about, and I've riled against that. I don't think it's a partisan thing or a geographic thing or an economic thing. I think it's a pandering. The public knows what the difference is between a serious issue and a non-serious issue, and the reason that a lot of elected or would-be elected officials focus on these things is they're easier to talk about than how you'd solve the problems of our relations around the world and getting out of Iraq and Social Security and who's going to pay for health care and all of those kinds of things. You can't get a quick soundbite answer that's intelligent, and there are no correct answers in many cases. There are no easy solutions. There's a penalty or cost in every one of them.